morning. Are you coming in then?
Good morning, and what a show we've got lined up for you today. Today's going to be a special one. We're joined throughout the morning by a loose women's star and all-round TV legend. Ruth Langsford will be here. Been waiting for years to have her in the house there, and that's not all, because I'll be serving up roast beef and Yorkshire pudding for the fabulous Peter Wright. The Yorkshire Vet will be here as well. And don't miss this week's Little Masterclass, where we've shown you everything you want to know how to make the perfect mixed berry pavlova. But first, as a guest in the house, who's a top-class chef, whose food has put the English Riviera on the culinary map. It's a good friend of the show and good friend of mine. It's Simon Alston. Good to see you, pal. We're going to start off today with this. You're going to be cooking for us a little bit later. Well, you're going to be doing one of your trademark dishes, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
What are you going to be making?
I'm going to make roasted scallops with salted toffee pea soup. Some lovely copper.
Doesn't taste anything like this mackerel pate, guys. Trust me. But this is what I'm going to be doing now. The reason why I want to do this now is because I made this the other day in the house, and I thought, I'm going to do this. Next time we've got a crew here, I'm going to make this because it's so simple and so tasty. I've got some smoked mackerel over here. I've got some lemon. I've got some cream. I've got some cream cheese. That's it, really. That's all you need for smoked mackerel pate. You don't need to make it, as in buy it already made. The smoked mackerel is already perfect like this. One thing you do have to do, really, with this is just take the bones out. You'll often find the bones are just through the bottom area here, but most of this nowadays that you buy is already, the bones have been taken out for you already as well. And I'm assuming you smoke your own mackerel down there, do you?
We don't really use that much.
Don't use much?
Not smoked. We use it nice and fresh because we get it straight from the boat.
Exactly.
So.
Well, you've got the luxury of, haven't you? You overlook that amazing harbour, don't you? Really?
And we also get loads of people coming straight off a mackerel fishing boats and bring them to us because they're on holiday. We don't know what to do with it.
Can't take it back to their caravan.
Absolutely,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. A camper. But it is. Just the mackerel's one of the most underrated fish.
It's absolutely stunning. Yeah, and there's an abundance of it as well. So sustainable.
And available all year round as well, like you were saying. But when you got the mackerel like this, you just break it up, take the skin off like that. But I'll say most of the mackerel you get nowadays, particularly the smoked mackerel that you get nowadays from the supermarket, it's already been boned anyway, so it's not got any bones in. And I think that's what puts a lot of people off mackerel, but you've got an amazing flavour from it. And what I do, really, is don't put it in a machine. You just mix this together with your hands. So you're just breaking it all up from the big pieces down to the small pieces. And then I'm just going to start to make our little pate, and it's so easy. Wash your hands in cold water whenever you're preparing fish, otherwise it cooks onto your hands and your hands smell of fish. There you go. So this, we're just going to make our mixture now. Very, very simple. You take some cream cheese. You just pop that in, double cream, like that. You can use single cream if you want. And then I just use lemon juice and lemon zest, and a bit of salt and pepper, and you've just made yourself some mackerel pate. It's not rocket science. I always find if you do it by hand, it's better than doing machine because you blend it all up. It purees too much. I think you want to be quite rustic because this is homely cooking, this one. We're going to go into the fancy Michelin star stuff later on in the show with him here. But you're just going to mix all this lot together. And this is your lovely...
It's all about flavour.
Well, it's all about flavour. I mean, you just mix that together. Look at it. It's just like this soft serve mackerel pate. I love this sort of stuff. You can put a little bit more cream in, a little bit of lemon. I'm just going to taste this. And then I thought what we'd do is serve this with some of the amazing produce that we have dotted around the UK. You know, when we've been doing this show, you've been watching as well, we get to link to all these amazing producers all around the country, from Scotland to Jersey to Wales, all over the place. But we thought he'd take you to this amazing butter producer. Now, I met this chap, Wyndham Weeks from Netherend Butter, a while back. He's based in Gloucestershire. He's there. I can see him in the factory now. I've been to this factory. Wyndham, good to speak to you.
Morning, James. How are you?
Now, tell us how it all started, because you're in this modern factory now, but it started in the 1930s, didn't it? Your family had the farm. Tell us how it all started.
Well, we always had a small milk round because our farm was a very small farm. And we just delivered the milk around the village. Back about 82, my wife, I got married, and my wife, myself, we built the business up and put a pasteurizer in. And then everybody wanted skim and semi-skim milk become very popular. So we had an excess cream problem. And we are not in a very good area really to sell cream. So we started making butter.
So nowadays you've got an amazing factory behind you. It's still quite small, still quite niche as well. You've got a butter producers, which is massive. Tell us about the machines you've got behind it. How do you actually physically make butter with the consistency that you get? Because the consistency and the quality has got to be the same all the time. That's the difficult bit. How do you actually make it?
Well, it is down to the butter maker, as well as sourcing good fresh cream as well. And as you can see behind me, there's some butter churns, and every batch is made as a batch. So it didn't like putting cream into a butter maker and pumping cream in one end and butter coming out the other. These batches have got to be made spot on every time we make a batch of butter. So now we put 1,000 litres of cream in the batch behind us, and it's literally churned and made specifically that batch.
And then we're going to go and visit your next bit. So I'll let you wander off while I make this little dressing. I know you're going to wander off to a second part of it to show you something else in a minute, but we'll catch up with you in a second.
Okay, thanks, James.
There you go. So we're just going to make... It's a fascinating places. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's amazing. Those churners, when it rotates like that, it takes a couple of hours to rotate, and then they wash it all off with water. Then they add the salt and churn it again. It's just huge, great mounds of butter. My idea of heaven. Exactly, my idea of heaven there. But we're going to make a little sort of French-style dressing. We've got some mustard, a little bit of vinegar, and some vegetable oil. And that's it. So 3-to-1 usually. If you want it sort of creamy-style dressing, this is where you just add a little bit of water to it, just a touch of cold water, and you've got yourself a nice little classic sort of creamy-style dressing. Really, that's it with the mackerel pate. That's all I've done, really. Soft serve like that, just simple as that. And I much prefer when it's broken up like that rather than put in a blender. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our nice little bread, and this is the selection of butter that we've got in here. Now, you, as chefs, this is quite a famous butter that people know about.
This is one that we all know about, yeah. It's a great, great butter. It's got that sort of farmyard taste to it as well, and smell, which is... I love.
Well, maybe not butter. Where I was brought up on a farm yard. We were brought up pig farmers. Maybe don't want that taste. Maybe don't want that taste. Whenever I go to a pig farm, I'm going, oof, gee, did I live like that, to be honest with you? But look, there he is. He's in the packing unit. So we'll go back to him while I'm char grilling the bread. So, Wyndham, this is amazing, this machine that puts the butter into these packets. So explain to us what's going on.
Well, now we've told everybody to shut down at this minute because it's so noisy, actually. But the machines are all in one now. They're specifically made. Originally, they were made for square blocks, but we've adapted machines to make it to our configuration of the sizes that we want. So we make a 10 gram, 15, 20 gram, and a 30 gram.
And these are the little pellets that I've got in here that people will familiarise themselves. And these are the ones that we got in here. So you take the similar sort of recipe and you can add things to it. I know you were last time I was there, you were sort of adding a new idea with seaweed. Has that gone well? You started to do that with seaweed?
Yeah, we're still experimenting with it. You know, it's probably quite a Pacific market really, but it's one I think that probably will go all right. You know.
I think it was an experiment on me. I think when I last saw him, he just sort of put this seaweed butter in front of me and said, "What do you think of that? What do you think of that one?" But it's an amazing job, and everybody's going to know whereabouts you are in the world for this amazing butter. So I'll let you go outside and you can show us the area of where you're going to be, and you can look out from your factory. We'll catch up with you in a minute. But I've got this little bit of bread over here, like that. So we're just going to char grill the little bit of bread. I just think it just wants to be served just with the butter, not even with the mackerel pate. But you can just take our nice little bit of char grilled bread and bring that across over here. I've got the mixed leaves over here. We've got these beautiful bits of watercress, which is just wonderful. This is just, talk about local. This is 100 yards away from here.
In your massive acres of
Not my
land.
massive acres, it's just in a watercress farm, just over there. But it's just a nice little bit of watercress.
I thought you were foraging then.
No, it's not foraging.
I can't imagine you doing that.
No, you don't. It's not foraging. We've just got, most of the watercress, the good watercress, is produced in Hampshire.
It is.
So it's literally just produced just down the road, to 100 yards away. And we just take our nice little bit of dressing over the top, a little bit of salt and pepper. There he is, back to him in his amazing place. So, Wyndham, explain to us whereabouts the farm is, and it's almost been in the same sort of place where you are in the factory all those years.
No, that's right. We're very close to the Wye Valley, so our little logo on the portions are betwixt the Severn and the Wye. So that's actually where we are.
I tell you what, you're better at making butter than you are at being a cameraman, to be honest, Wyndham. Because I can just see the top of your head.
I closed my eyes, I thought it was Tom Kerry.
Yeah,
That's me on the top of my head.
Simon thought it was Tom Kerry speaking then. We could just see the top of your head. But anyway. Best of luck with everything, and I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. You're conquering the world, to be honest with you. The butter's amazing, and good luck with everything. Thank you for being a part of it.
Well, the only problem is I'm not close enough to taste that food in front of you.
Yeah, well, I'll next time I see you, I'll bring some along anyway. But there you go. All right.
Okay.
Take care. All right.
Bye for now, both.
What an amazing... It is absolutely amazing there. If you ever get the chance to go visit, it's just absolutely wonderful. It's really, really, very, very, very special when you get producers like that making
so humble as well.
So humble,
Yeah,
the quality
brilliant.
of the ingredient, but the technique and the skill, but also the consistency, to try and get that consistency right all the time. That's the tricky bit. With butter, you just think it's one ingredient. It is one ingredient, but of course, throughout the year...
Moving around the silage.
Yeah, with the cattle bringing inside in the winter, they
Yeah.
produce a different type of milk. It's technically it's really difficult to get right. And I just think all we do with this butter is just serve it on the plate like that. I don't think it needs anything else. But there you have it, my smoked mackerel pate with a little bit of nether end butter.
Lovely.
Nice little bit of dressed salad with toasted sourdough. Easy as that. Done. Bon appetit.
Lovely, thank you
There
very
you
much.
go. Dive into that. I'm going to have it old school with a proper knife. There you go.
Yeah,
But
I'm gonna go
I
straight-
almost think it's
straight in with the
not
butter.
doing it justice, really, serving it with the mackerel pate, but just the bread and the butter. But taste a little bit of the.
Spot on.
Right, Simon will be cooking for us a little later on in the show, doing his trademark dish, and I'll be joined in the kitchen by the one and only Ruth Langsford very shortly. But don't go anywhere, because after the break, I'll be celebrating more of this country's fantastic ingredients with my latest leg of my food adventures. This time I'm going to Wales. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. Now there's a masterclass in berry pavlova coming right up, and I'll be joined in the house by my guest Ruth Langsford very shortly. Okay, it's time to take a look back at one of my favourite ever food adventures. This week, I'm with the genius chef Gareth Ward, the amazing two-star Michelin chef.
And well-deserved.
Well-deserved indeed. I was trying to get him squeezed into my Mini, but on a tour of the orchards in mid-Wales. We eventually got him in the Mini. It was difficult getting him out of it, but anyway, when you end up with these amazing orchards in Wales, it really is spectacular. Enjoy this one. My adventure continues, and today I'm exploring the rolling hills of mid-Wales, where I'm joined by a man who's made this magnificent part of the world home. Michelin star chef, Gareth Ward. So, I cannot believe you've never been in a Mini.
Mate, my whole family have had Minis, everything. My dad's had one, my uncle's got one sat in his drive. I've never been in it. You know what, I think if you're going to donate one to me, I'll have one. I'll look after it for you.
Yeah, I bet you will, yeah. Get in and drive it then. It's the first time you've driven a Mini.
Yeah, now we'll get out of it first. Where is it?
That one!
That one?
That one,
Pull it down.
No, pull it up.
Oh yeah.
Something tells me he's used to summer a bit bigger.
Right, how are we going to do this?
See, if cooking doesn't fail, you could do the Gareth Ward
Getting inside the car. Getting in and out of cars.
and an automatic.
How do we get in reverse? That still falls. Is there a special way?
Well,
Isn't there? Right, clutch down. Are we in reverse or what? Chef, I'm going to get out and push it.
I would put it in reverse, but I don't want to.
I think you should.
I don't want to molest you.
Get it in reverse for me.
1 sec.
Oh, there it is. Oh, never touched me there before. tell you what.
Let go.
For such a small car, it's hard to turn around, isn't it?
I don't know, I need a wet light now.
Right. We're away.
Tell you what, if there's one car that suits you, it's got to be this.
I'm all over this. I'm going to get one of these. Oh, yeah.
Hey?
Yeah, can I have it?
Yeah, happy with this?
Yeah.
See?
I'm loving it.
Hey, it's all right, isn't it? And we're finally on our way. Next stop, Welsh Mountain Cider. A beautiful 6-acre small holding run by Bill Bleasdale and Shabba Richmond.
This is it. Look at that.
Prospect Orchard.
Ready to taste some cider.
And being in the mountains, their orchard is apparently one of the highest in the United Kingdom. So how did it all start?
Well, about 15 years ago, I had the opportunities to buy this 6-acre plot, and my dad makes a bit of cider in Somerset, and I thought I'd plant an orchard.
A lot of people say that you shouldn't grow apples at altitude. I mean, this has got to be one of the highest apple orchards in the country, hasn't it?
Generally, you can see, like, they're all growing, and I think, you know, you just got to try things and hope for the best.
You get much trouble with, like, obviously being altitude with heavy winds and the weight of the trees when they're full of apples?
Last year we had a few broken branches because there was so much fruit, but generally they stand up to it pretty well. Yeah.
So you take the apples from here, and the cider that you produce, I mean, that is purely natural stuff.
Yeah, we press them here, we ferment them naturally, so it's just the juice. We don't add anything, no sulfites, no sugar, no yeast.
And it's become really popular, this, because not only you've got your own stuff, you're actually encouraging people to come and visit.
So every winter we sell orchards by post. Every winter we send out around 20 acres of orchard all around the UK to Europe as well. So we're really into spreading the knowledge of how to make proper cider.
So I'm looking forward to trying some, aren't you?
Can't wait, mate.
They make around 14 different vintages every year, from rich dark blends to a light white wine style cider, made mostly from dessert apples. So tell me what we've got in here. We've got some to taste then.
The first one is our Flanders Cox.
Yeah.
So that's a single variety cider. So it's just one type of apple in there.
Oh, it's a good one, isn't it?
I'll tell you what, that's all right, isn't
It's
it?
all right, that's, yeah.
But the great thing about this, it's not sweet, it's not sharp. It's totally different to commercial cider. I mean, in every sense of the word. But
It is.
It's very well balanced.
It's very well balanced, but pure.
Yeah, pure.
In terms of its flavour.
Like a really, really good unpasteurised cheddar. There's flavours that keep coming a minute after you've
I was going to say, you
drunk
can
it.
still
There's
taste
still
it.
things coming.
Still
new
taste it,
things
yeah.
revealing themselves, and that to us is what makes a truly great cider.
This is the nicest cider I've ever had.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Thank you
It
very
really
much.
is, because you get the sweetness, you get the sharpness, but it's like really good wine. And this is what you're saying about you leave it for a period of time. It's aged.
This was made in the end of November, beginning of December 2013, this cider.
Well, thanks for that.
Cheers again.
Which one was that again?
That was this one.
I'm going to have that one. I'm going to have that one as well. The one nearest to you. Lovely. I'm going to go cook with this now. So,
Oh, enjoy.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amazing. Don't drink too much of it.
You take your time, chef.
Why does he keep calling me chef? Anyway, there's no way I can taste cider like that and not cook with it. So I'm going to use it in a delicious dessert. I thought I'd use some of this fantastic cider to create a wonderful little fritter dish, all using got some great apples. We're going to do a little cider fritter, cider butter, cider custard, cider in everything, really. For our custard, I've got some nice cider over here. I've got some cream, I've got some eggs and a bit of sugar. That's all you really need. The French call this crème anglaise. It's custard. We take a little bit of our cider. We've got our cider in here. Because it's not too sweet, which is exactly what we want for this, we can then add our cream. Now, really for this, you need to measure the amount of liquid because that's all to do with your egg yolks. Roughly, a standard custard would be 8 egg yolks set to about 1 litre of liquid. So I've got a few egg yolks here. You can either sweeten this with a touch of honey, or I like to use a bit of sugar. It is important when you're doing this not to add the sugar too early, particularly to egg yolks. It will cure the egg yolks and actually start to cook them. So a good tip for that is to add a little bit of sugar to the eggs and the rest to our pan over here. What we want to do is just bring this to a gentle sort of simmer. Now, the flavourings in there, you can vary the flavourings as you want, but I'm just going to use a little bit of vanilla. But inside the vanilla, you've got these amazing seeds. And these are the prized ingredient, really. So you take out the seeds like that.
keep the vanilla pods, because these are quite expensive. They actually trade vanilla like gold. So literally keep these, pop them in a little bit of sugar like that, and you can use it for vanilla sugar. Now, this is starting to boil now, so you can take the egg yolks and the sugar, give this a quick whisk up. Now, the mixture over here is starting to boil. So at this moment in time, we then take our boiling mixture and pop it straight into our egg yolks. Mix this all in. So now what you need to do is keep your eye on it, because the thing about custard is you've got to take it to about 72 degrees. If you boil it, it will split and you'll end up with scrambled eggs. And there's no way of bringing it back. Literally no way. This mixture's starting to get a little bit thicker, starting to thicken up. We grab our sieve. Like that. Now you can tell when it's just perfect is that it just starts to curdle around the edge of the pan. See that? It's nice and thick, but it's not glow-in-the-dark fluorescent yellow custard. It's proper custard. Next, I'll turn my attention to the batter. Now, the batter itself, we're then going to deep fry our fritters in our nice little batter. So the batter itself is done with flour, a little bit of corn flour in there, touch of sugar. We can sweeten that up. There's two ways to sweeten it: bit of sugar or a touch of honey. Little drizzle of Welsh honey. That's going to go in. Touch of cinnamon. And then we can grab some cider. And you can use our cider to flavour your batter. We're just going to mix all this lot together to create our nice batter. But that's what you want, really. That sort of nice batter. Fish and chip batter. That looks about right to me. And then our apples. We can then cut these into nice slices. Now, you can use whatever apples you want, as long as they're British apples, of course. You can even use Bramleys, it's up to you. And then just remove the little core out. Pop that in there. Then we take our piece of apples and chuck it into your batter. And then we grab our nice fritters. We'll just deep fry these. Make sure you deep fry them without too much batter on it, because you want that hole in the apple as well. When all your apples are in like that, just cook these for about 3 or 4 minutes. So with these, once you get a nice bit of colour on one side, just turn it over, really, like that. Just keep checking them. Really, just make sure the oil is not too hot, otherwise the apples won't cook in the centre. So they're quite happily cooking away nicely. Now, I thought I'd do this with a nice cider butter. Touch of butter, bit of ice and sugar. So I'm going to take my influence for this from Christmas, i.e. brandy butter, and we're going to make cider butter. So butter, ice and sugar, and a little bit of cider. I'm happy with these. Look at these. Take these out. And then sprinkle with a bit of sugar, like classic fritters should be. And then to plate this, just so happens I've got a nice little platter over here. You can take your custard, nice bit of custard on the top. You just pop your fritters on. A dollop of cider butter. We've got an amazing selection of people who make this show who said you need to put apple blossom on it. It's where apples come from. When you've got apples on the trees, there's no blossom. So I'm left with pansies.
So there they are, cider-infused apple fritters in cider custard, topped with pansies. Pretty. They look good. Let's see how they taste.
Look at that lovely butter. Delicious. Let's have some custard too.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, you can really taste the cider.
I'd say they're a hit.
Right, Sam will be cooking for us a little bit later. You're going to be doing your trademark dish?
Absolutely.
Which is?
It's my salted toffee pea soup with roasted scallops.
That's what it is. He's really sold that one, hasn't he? But join me again after the break when we're serving up a pasta ragu for my guest, Ruth Langsford. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. Now, coming up, I'll be making a mixed berry pavlova in this week's Little Masterclass, and Chef Simon Hulston will be firing up the stoves very shortly. But first, I'm with the First Lady of ITV Daytime, who's been lighting up our screens on Loose Women, and this morning for over 20 years, the brilliant Ruth Langsford! Big love for you in the house. We've eventually got you. How long did that take?
How long has it taken me to get here?
Well, we've worked together for many, many years. It's great to have you in the house. And cheers, anyway.
Cheers.
You're on the champagne already.
Yes, of course.
I love that. So what we're going to do is, and I know you're a big lover of food, and you want to learn how to cook fish as well. So I thought throughout the show, we'd get you back in. You're going to get you 3 parts for this. We're going to get you to show you how to cook fish in 2 other dishes as well. But ragu, we're going to do a really nice pasta ragu, which I know is one of your favourites. So the first thing we want to do with this is talk about the base for our ragu. So I've got some onions, leek, carrot, celery. That's the basis of this. Then we've got some bay leaf.
Holy Trinity or something.
That is the Holy Trinity, really, as well. We've got, just chop all this up. Now, you can blend it, which is a lot easier. You can finely dice it if you want, but when you've got a blender like this, you might as well just have a blender, chuck it in a blender.
I don't normally put leek in mine. I've done the carrots and celery and onions.
Leeks as well, that goes in. So while that's blending in here, I'll run through the rest of it. That's it. Blend it all up like that. You can just keep going and going and going. That'll blend up. While that's happening, turn our attention to what we've got in here. We've got 2 different types of meat for this. We've got pork and beef, 50-50.
Yeah, a lot of people do that mix, don't they? I just tend to use beef.
You just use beef?
Yeah.
You can do if you want. I think you need the pork in there as well, really. I think you need half and half. A lot of people would make this, if you want, and you can do it seasoning-wise, you can do it with venison.
Oh, nice. I like venison.
So venison work well with beef as well, but either way, the combination of the 2 meats really work well together. So that's our nice little bit of blended vegetables. That's all going to go in here. So, Ruth, tell us about yourself then, because TV, first of all, before television, if we go back to when you were a young kid, I didn't know that you travelled the world when you were a young kid, even before you were 10. Well,
this is the world. You know, my dad was in the army, so I'm an army kid, and my sister was born in Germany. I was born in Singapore. I don't remember Singapore because I was only about 6 months old when they left. They loved Singapore. I remember Tripoli in Libya. So I remember how hot it was. Like, it was so hot. And everything was very, very different to me. I was 5 when we went there.
Was that difficult as a young kid? You know, when you get friends and meeting friends and keeping those friends. How did you find that when you're growing up?
Well, we didn't know anything else really, you know. So you just knew, and because we were all kind of service kids, you just knew that's what we did. We all went to school. Hence why eventually I went to boarding school, which a lot of service children do, because your parents think, you know, it's not so great dragging you around to so many different schools.
Now, didn't that take you down to... You ended up in Cornwall, didn't you?
Yeah, so I went to boarding school in London.
Right.
And then my dad was coming out of the army. He did 23 years in the army, loved it, loved the life, we all did. But his family are Cornish, and so he and my mum had bought a house in Cornwall. And so when he came out of the army, and they were in this small fishing village called Corsand, and that's when I started my TV career. So I was
with a dream of going into television or not?
No, never. Not a clue. Very, very, very directionless teenager, like flunked school. Did flunk school.
With a view to do what? You must have been wanting to do something, or nothing, right?
Didn't know. You know, there's people, that kids, and even when they're like 14, they go, oh, yes, I want to be a solicitor or a doctor. Not a clue, not a clue. Just very aimless teenager. And my mum, God love her, said to me, do a sectorial course. Because
you were very academic, though, because...
No. Well, I could have been if I'd worked harder.
Because you get the feeling, well, I've known you for a while now, but you never forget anything, and your knowledge, you're like a sponge. And we worked together on this morning as well.
When was that?
That was scary. That was 5.5 years ago. That was the last time I ever want to present this morning. It was frightening.
All right?
I did all right, but I didn't do very well. It was frightening. But it's one of those things. But you know, you're so comfortable with it.
I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? But there's people that do it a long time. But I've been doing this a long time, 30 years.
Yeah, but you're comfortable with it.
I'm still winging it, basically. But do you know what I mean? You feel very at one with your job.
Well, I love my job, as you love your cooking, so I think that helps. I love meeting people, so I love talking to people. So for me, it's almost trying to forget that there's a camera on you and thinking, if I met this person on the bus or in a pub and we got chatting, what questions would I ask them and where would that conversation go? It's not that
So so I stopped you. When you were in Cornwall, you were doing shorthand for some companies and bits and pieces. How did you meet somebody in a pub that got you involved?
I did. A wonderful woman called Pat Savage. And Pat Savage, if you're watching, please get in touch with me because I've lost contact with her. Right. So I met Pat Savage. She and her husband lived in the same village as us, and she was working at, it was Westwood Television then, that's how old I am. And she was saying to me, what do you want to do? And again, I was like, I don't know really. And she said, why don't you, come and I'll get an interview for you with the head of personnel, as they were called in those days, not HR. And so that's how I got in. I worked behind the scenes, absolutely loved it. From the moment I got there, I loved the atmosphere, and I wanted to be a floor manager. In the meantime, they were looking for a continuity presenter, which is, when people, they don't appear now, but they used to appear in between the adverts and things going, hello, welcome to Television Southwest, and later tonight we've got A, B and C. Yeah. And they needed a holiday release, and they asked me, would I like an audition?
It's amazing how television works, isn't it?
But you know those stories that, I remember them asking, the boss called me up on a Friday afternoon, and I genuinely thought he wanted to, ask me to do something. So I remember taking my pad up, to shorthand, like, you might want me to do something Friday afternoon. And he said, we're looking for a holiday relief continuity presenter. And I thought he was going to ask me to put an ad in the Stage magazine or something. I was like, yes. And he said, I wondered if you fancied having a go. And it was one of those, one of those moments you go, oh, sorry, me? Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, he's not alive anymore, David Sunderland.
So you've done all manner of different TV over your career and all manner of different sort of stuff. But one thing that, makes you feel comfortable is, tell us about this QVC thing you've been working on, because you've been doing this for quite a while now. And it's gone from strength to strength. It's a big hit that you've got.
It is a big hit. I always feel like I'm showing off when I say that, but it really has been.
But it is. I mean, but out of everything you've done, it's one of those jobs. I find this is one of those things that everything I've ever learned has come together for this moment.
Yeah.
Because I've spent 30 years doing this, 40-odd years of cooking. Yeah. You're cooking without thinking about it and interviewing somebody. People find it difficult. But when you're doing this... QVC, that's another step up because you've got...
It's a completely different thing to everything I've done before. I didn't see it coming. I'm delighted it did. I did not see it coming. I didn't go looking for it. So QVC approached me, via my Adrian, darling. Yeah. And I was like, wow, yeah, of course I'll go and talk to them. And it's gone from there. And I was, I didn't know what to say about fashion. I know I like clothes. I know I like to try and look stylish. But when you say about maybe this moment was coming, when I look back, I mean, I did that. One of the things I was good at school was needlework. Yeah. I remember getting a sewing machine for my 18th birthday and I was really disappointed. I thought it was the most boring present. But actually, as I was older, I remember buying my first flat and I made curtains and, so I could sew.
And then you've gone on, not just to present it, but tell us about this. We're going to talk about it later on the show as well, while I finish off this pasta. But tell us about the new thing you've been involved in as well, because this is big for you, because now you've got your own name involved in this, naming lights, not just on television.
You're making me nervous now.
Yeah, well, this is great. It's great. Tell us about this new idea.
It's exciting, but you do tours and shows and things. When your name's there, and you're hoping that people are going to buy a ticket and come and see you. It's quite a pressure, but it is exciting. Yes, so I'm doing an event, a 2-day event called Feeling Fabulous with Ruth. Yeah. Beautiful location. You'll probably know it, Billingsgate, the old Billingsgate. Place. Yeah, absolutely. So it's the old fish market, beautiful building, right next to the River Thames. When you go out, there's a beautiful terrace outside. And you get a seal
out there if you look out as well. There will be seal there. Yeah.
There's Tower Bridge. It's just a beautiful location. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of my kind of celebby friends. I hate celebby friends because they are my friends. But Ryland's coming. Anton, who's been here, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. Been here. He can't get away from the place. That's the thing, exactly.
Anton's popping down. We've got lots of hair demonstrations, beauty demonstrations, lots of, experts, tips, all the things that my girlfriends and I kind of talk about when we're all together.
Ruth, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to talk about that later on the show as well, because there's more to talk about. Look, what I'm going to go is just got a little bit of our pasta over here with our simple little ragu finished off in there, and then what I'm going to do, and I've cooked the pasta, finish off cooking the pasta in here. We're just going to take a nice little bit of basil over the top.
So is it sacrilege to you if you put the pasta on the plate and shove the sauce on the top?
That is definitely
That
wrong.
you'd throw me out?
That's definitely wrong, yeah.
Okay.
That's definitely
Just
wrong.
checking.
And then, well, I've got here some fresh Parmesan cheese over the top.
You know in restaurants when they go, say when, and I'm literally like that.
Is that what you want? Just, yeah, exactly.
I'm like that. Keep
Well,
going,
say when,
keep
this
going,
is yours.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. That's lovely, thank you.
There you go. And then I've got some lovely olive oil over the top. And there we have it, my simple little ragu. It takes time to make a good ragu, but it's well worth it.
So do you put that on in the morning, just leave it alone for 4 hours?
Yeah, just leave it alone. Don't touch it, don't stir it, don't do anything with it, just leave it.
Wow.
Easy as that, done.
Gorgeous.
Bon appetit.
Look at that.
There you go. This is a little starter in this house. So
that's fine for me.
You've got more coming, so don't fill yourself up. But it's.
Oh look, yeah. I'm twirling.
I'm going to go in with fingers.
You're going fingers.
It's nice.
Oh, hang on. How do you do this elegantly? You can't really, can you?
No, I don't know.
Oh, that sauce, that's deep.
It's tasty, isn't it? That's where you cook it. You need to cook it. And it almost goes like, I remember my granny cooking a meatloaf. You know, this almost looks like that. That it's just, yeah, it's that kind of. You've got to cook it and cook it and cook it and cook it. It gets better the longer you cook it for.
And the next day, but it's even nicer.
Yeah, the next day even better, and it's just delicious, that. But plenty of basil, lots of Parmesan. Easy as that. Right, I'll be cooking for Ruth again later on in the show, and we'll be joined by Yorkshire Vet Peter Wright. We'll be dropping by the house very shortly. But join me again after the break when top chef Simon Holstrom will be here with an amazing recipe for scallops. Scallops and peas and toffee. It all works together. I'll see you in a minute. Welcome back. I do love that. Now, there's still loads more to come from my guest, Ruth Langsford, and I'll be cooking for Peter Wright, the star of the Yorkshire Vet, very shortly. But first, I'm here with a chef who won the Ruth Scholarship before opening the only restaurant in Torquay to ever win a Michelin star. It's the fabulous Simon Holstrom. Your first time in the house, and you're cooking a classic. I'm looking forward to this one, then. So, what are you going to be making?
So, I've got some fantastic scallops. I'm going to be roasting those. I'm going to make a little bit of a different dish. I'm going to do a salted caramel pea sauce. Right. So, a bit different.
It's salted caramel pea sauce, right? Go on then.
It works really well. And then I've got some wild garlic oil with it and some fantastic copper ham and finished with fennel pollen.
So, tell us about the scallops first of all, then. These look amazing.
So, these are Orkney scallops. So, we always use these. These are sustainable as you can get, hand-dived. We're just going to shuck these open.
I think they're the nicest scallops that I found, really, on my journeys and travels.
They're absolutely fantastic. The consistency is amazing, and just the size of them is just wonderful.
Now, do you use the roe or not?
No, I don't use it at all. I tend to just go straight in for the muscle, go for that, and then just want that lovely white meat. We sometimes make an XO sauce out of the bits and pieces from it, but don't really need it for this one.
It's an interesting way you're scooping it out with the spoons. Just a nice cleaner way of doing it.
Cleaner way and a lot quicker. When we've got 200-300 of Easter prep, I'm going to bang through them. So just hitting the muscle, knocking that to the side, and you can go in with your finger, move it around, but it's also a lot cleaner.
Easy as that?
Easy.
Looks fantastic. Like you said, the Orkney ones are amazing.
So just going to give them a quick wash off to kill for any grit that's in there or any bits where we've gone through the bladder.
But often with the hand, because they're hand dived, they don't flap up when they've been harvested.
No.
They're beautiful, aren't they?
I'm just going to give those.
So you don't really get anything. You don't get anything sand in it. You get nothing.
No. The only thing that we're going to get is when we've cut through the bladder. So you don't want any of those horrible bits in there.
Okay. So we've got that.
So soup.
Yeah.
So straight on with pans. I'm going to do shallots first. Always a
So tell me about the restaurant then, because you've been there for how long?
So we've been there 17 years.
Yeah.
So.
And a Michelin star restaurant, obviously from the very beginning.
We got a star within the first year of being there, so it was a bit of a shock, really. Actually, a chef phoned me in the morning when we achieved it to say congratulations, and I hadn't a clue what he was on about because my wife was pregnant at the time, and I thought, well, she's lying next to me, she hasn't given birth, so what are you on about? And he was like, no, you've got a star, and I'm like, no, don't be silly, that's the other restaurant. Didn't have a clue. Fantastic. It was the days before social media, you know.
Yeah.
It was, so, didn't know how he got it, but he was a 2-star chef. Gave me a call and we believed him.
But you've always wanted to follow in your dad's footsteps. Your dad was a chef as well.
Absolutely, yeah. My dad's a fantastic chef. He sort of got me into it more than anything. I think it was the banter of being in the kitchen and being a 13, 14-year-old, going into a kitchen, working with all the older guys, seeing what was going on, and just getting in with it, really. Yeah. My daughter's doing the same at the moment. She's working as a kitchen porter.
So she wants to be the next generation.
Yeah, and her banter is 100%. It's fantastic. So I've got shallots, garlic, thyme in there. Just going to sweat those down. Yeah. And I'm going to add the chicken stock to that. Yeah. And meanwhile, I've got the caramel on the go. So I'm just doing a quick dry caramel. Chicken stock as a base. We can use any stock for this. So, because I'm doing it with scallops, I quite like the chicken stock for it. But ham stock would be great for it as well. Pea and ham goes fantastically.
I'm just intrigued. Where on earth and what were you drinking when you decided to make salted caramel and peas? So what happened there then?
This is a little bit of a magpie from when I did my Ruth scholarship when I won, and I went out to work in Spain. And the chef that I did the dish worked at was called Martin Berasategui, and it was a 3-star restaurant. And he did a salted toffee dish and added peas around it. And I just thought about, bringing it all in together, really. And it just worked. Just works a treat.
People have heard about the Ruth Scholarship. We're both judges on the Ruth Scholarship. Feel honoured to be a judge on the Ruth Scholarship. You won it. But it's one of those, there's no other competition, and you do competitions, a lot of competitions.
Retired.
Well, retired but you go into your kitchen, it's honestly, it's like an awards cabinet behind his head and above the kitchen, because you managed to do so many things and competitions all over the world as well. But the Ruth Scholarship, that enables the winner to work in any 3-star that they want, anywhere in the world.
Any 3-star restaurant in the world, yeah, absolutely. And for 3 months, which money can't buy, really. It's a trip of a lifetime.
To get access to these kitchens is, even as a chef, even as a qualified chef, is one thing.
But you've also got that pass of having the Ruse behind you as well. Yeah. So every chef that goes out there has got the respect from the other 3-star chefs you're going to go work with. So butter into the caramel.
Yeah. So this is just basically like a salted caramel, like you do normally. Cream.
Yeah.
Toffee.
Yeah.
And one of the amazing things about cooking in it, you never stop learning in this game. And you won't mention that 3-star, but you know, I've never seen this before.
So his style of food was fantastic. He was Ducasse trained, and he brought this modern style food to it. And it was the newest 3-star at the time in Spain. Right. So El Bulli, everybody spoke about, which was the big one that all the chefs wanted to be at. Yeah. But I couldn't take El Bulli back to my kitchen. It just wouldn't work. Yeah. So for me, I needed to work with somebody who was classical, that did fantastic Spanish food.
But also, El Bulli bit, that was a moment in time that was, you can't replicate that anyway.
No, you can't, not at all.
Yeah.
So peas are in there. Yeah. And then I'm going to blend that. Right. But I'm going to blend that with some more peas as well, just to get that colour.
So the idea is you blend it with more... And you're using frozen peas for this one?
I'm using frozen peas, because I can make this all year round.
So you just blend that?
Yeah, do you need me to blend it?
We can, yeah. It's blended.
Yeah, blended.
Blended. We've got them in here.
Yeah. Right, so next is the scallops. I'm going to roast those off. So I'm going to go by halves, straight onto the plancha. That's absolutely... They're so firm. There's just such a difference with scallops that are hand-dived.
You're cooking them straight on the plate there,
Straight onto the plancha, yeah. Oh, lovely. Just a little bit of sea salt. And then we've got our pea soup.
So that's what, have you blended it and passed it, or just
blended it, passed it.
Right.
Yeah, just added a bit more salt to it, because I want to get that salted sort of toffee flavour into it.
The scallops look amazing.
Vibrant, because we've added the peas at the end as well, so it keeps it nice and green. Yeah. And I won't bring it up to the boil, because I want to just foam it a little bit. Okay. But also just to keep that colour, because the more you heat it, the more you're going to lose that colour.
Yeah.
It's going to go dull and...
So tell everybody about your restaurant. It's called?
It's called The Elephant.
Yeah.
Strange name for a restaurant on the coast, but we became successful and we kept it. So that's pretty much how we've looked at it.
And the Torquay, you've got the marina bit. You're to the right-hand side as you're going up the hill.
We're
yours is on the left.
distance, of the water, where you parked your massive yacht. You know,
I wish.
You basically blocked the sun out for a while.
I wish. What are you after?
Just a smaller pan.
Smaller pan. I'll find you a pan. You say your first time you've been here. Look at that. In fact, you can have one of these. There you go.
Fantastic. That'll do. Yep. Okay.
There you go.
So to go with it,
we've
got some wild garlic, which grows in abundance around by me. So we take advantage of this all year round. So it's only around for about 3 weeks, but we utilise it throughout the year through oils.
It freezes really well.
Yeah, pestos. We put it into the freezer, and then we can just pull it out when we need it as well. Just treat it as spinach.
I tell you what, we talked about that butter as well that we were on earlier. Yeah. But you can mix that together with butter and then freeze it. It works brilliantly.
Oh, manipulate the butter. Yeah, we do so much with butter now. It's brilliant. So I'm just going to saute a little bit of that to go with the dish. This is going to sit on the bottom.
And interesting enough, the wild garlic, I've seen it. Forage for it, but I've seen it in supermarkets, so you can actually go out and buy it now. I've seen it in packs in supermarkets. Now,
I don't think I've ever paid for wild garlic in my life.
Well, you don't need to if you live in the countryside. We don't need to, do you? The key to it is keep your place of where you know where it is secret.
Absolutely. Well, you can't with the smell.
Yeah. So these peas, you podded the peas.
Yeah, very chefy,
and
isn't it?
Podded the peas. You podded the actual pea.
We've peeled the pea that's been peeled. Yeah. It's very chefy, isn't it, really?
It is very,
Yeah. Lovely bit of scallop on there. Let's get those on there. Because they are fantastic. Let's go. We'll go for all 4 because I'm sure everybody wants to nip in and try those.
So what got you into the competitive side of it? Because you mentioned the Ruth Scholarship, but the competitions that you're in, you travelled all over the world doing these competitions. What?
Yeah, so that was a main thing, really, was the travelling all around the world, seeing different dishes, seeing different chef styles.
You haven't got time to do that now, have you? You've got a restaurant to run.
That's it, I get it. And also, they used to give me holidays.
Exactly. So tell me about this copper. This copper's amazing.
So this is Dutchy charcuterie in Cornwall,
right.
Which is fantastic copper. And again, the meat fats going through this just helps bring it all together. And then this is the garlic oil. And we're going to just pour that all around, just split it all up a little bit. And then we're going to finish with the smallest shoots that we've got of wild garlic, just to finish that dish off.
Simon, everybody! Brilliant, that's it. Right, I'm looking forward to this then. I'm intrigued. Salted caramel peas.
I think you'll love it. I hope so.
I know I'm going to love it, you know. Mission South for 17 years, Chief. No, got to taste it. Double podded peas.
It's a difference in flavour when you pod them twice.
It's great, isn't it?
It's got everything you want. Salt, sweet, caramelised. It's got every little bit, and then you got that saltiness from the copper ham.
You've got the amazing flavour with it.
Through, yeah. It's pretty simple.
Pretty simple, it says. That's amazing. Simon Olsen, everybody.
Thank you.
Brilliant, that. Brilliant. Right, I'll be dishing up a masterclass in pavlova in a little while, but after the break, I'll be serving up roast beef with Yorkshire pudding. For top vet, Peter Wright will be here. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. Now there's a second helping of Ruth Langsford from Loose Women coming your way very shortly. But first, it's an honour to be joined at the house by the star of Channel 5's hit documentary series and one of my favourite shows on TV. from the Yorkshire Vet. It's the brilliant Mr. Peter Wright. Now, Ching Ching, I've been so looking forward to chatting to you. I really, really have. Welcome to the house.
Thank you, James. Well, I've got to say, it's a real privilege to be here. I don't watch much television, I don't watch many cookery programmes, but I do make an exception with you because the way you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and everything just turns out so fantastically well every time.
You're about to find the real mystery behind it for 30 years anyway in a minute. But we're going to do, I thought I'd cook for you. You can't take the boy out of Yorkshire, so I thought I'd do roast beef, Yorkshire pudding, roast potatoes. We're going to start off with the Yorkshire pudding. So we cook this in beef dripping. Now, I don't know whether you know this, but the reason why I'm interested in you coming as well, because I'm fascinated by being a vet. I always wanted to be a vet when I was a young kid. If it was one job, if I gave up this job tomorrow, I would give it up to be a vet. I think it's one of the most amazing jobs in the world.
I consider myself very privileged, James, really, to do what I've done all my life, a veterinary surgeon. Everybody, you know, has different walks of life, does different things, but to me, there's no other job like it.
Did you always want to do it?
No, I didn't. I didn't know what I was going to do, James, to be honest, until I got to careers choice at school, and the head of careers said to me, Peter, what are you going to do when you leave? I said, well, I don't know, sir, because we all call it teacher surgeon. I said, I don't know, sir, and he said, what about dentistry? Well, just the thought of looking in people's mouths all day just filled me with dread. So he said, what about veterinary science? Oh, I thought, that sounds OK, because I can be out in the countryside, I can be with animals, which I love being around anyway, and I can use what little grey matter I have as well in doing a job such as being a veterinary surgeon. So I went down there, so I'll fix it up for you to go down for half a day with Alf Wright and his son Jim, who we taught. And within 2 hours, I was absolutely gone on it. I thought, this is for me. I was just sold immediately. And I thought, wow, how lucky am I?
I mean, it's got to be one of the most famous veterinary surgeons in the world, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, the Harriet practice, even now, you know, Alf Wright, as James Harriet, sold over 80 million books, translated into over 20 languages, but he was never, to me, he was never like that. He was never the author. He was always the vet. He was such a humble, very quiet, but very kind man.
Yeah.
And he was never one for pushing information down your throat either. But if you went for advice, he was always there with a pearl of wisdom. And he was such a lovely man. And as was his partner, Donald Sinclair was Siegfried Farnan. He was also a very humble man, despite how he comes across on the programme. But he was also wildly eccentric.
Because I think by watching that and reading it and stuff like that, that's where I fell in love with the practice and the whole idea of it. But you can become, I mean, the great thing about veterinary practice, it's so diverse, isn't it? You don't know what you're going to get through the door 1 minute to the next. You've got that mix now of farming and people's pets.
I mean, I work in what's called, and Skeldale was a mixed veterinary practice, so we're dealing with all species, literally, all creatures, great and small. Yeah. And that's changed somewhat now, and the profession is becoming much more specialist. You either go down the small animal route or the farm route or the...
Why is that? Is that because farming's changed in general?
Farming has changed, and, you know, a lot of the family farms that Harriet wrote about, that I grew up with as well, the small family farms were very plentiful, and so with it were the characters. And now the small family farms are disappearing as the large farming enterprises take over. So it's very sad, really, in some ways, that the countryside is changing with it as well, and the characters disappear.
But now, talking about characters like yourself, I read a little thing about you last night that I thought you hadn't even ventured in the kitchen for a long while, have you?
I'm not good in the kitchen, but you see, I've got an excuse, boss. I've got an excuse because, you know, I used to work 7 days a week quite often, get home...
Hey, that's no excuse. I work 7 days a week, still not an excuse. That's not going to tick that one off the box for me.
Well, it's the best I can come up with.
Is that But look, we're going to make this Yorkshire pudding. Now, this Yorkshire pudding is not changed. It's my grandmother's old recipe. 8 ounces of flour, 8 eggs, pint of full-fat milk. She would never use semi-skimmed milk. She'd always use full-fat milk. 8 eggs, 8 ounces of flour, and then mix it by hand. And then what you do is you need to put this and pop it in the fridge. So cover it over, cling film it, pop it in the fridge, and then we've got one that's been in here overnight. Now, it needs to rest for at least 4 or 5 hours. And then All the while, the carrots are just rapidly boiling. You can see this mixture looks like it's split. We just keep mixing this by hand again. Salt and pepper gone in here. The reason why you do it by hand, it doesn't overwork the gluten in the flour. There we go. And you need it to allow it to rest and relax. Now, our Yorkshire pudding tray is in the oven. Because then this can then come out. I know you spotted your roast potatoes that you've got in there as well. You take this, and while the tray's still hot, you pour this straight on, and it needs to sizzle a little bit.
So what temperature's the oven at now?
200 degrees.
200 degrees, yeah.
400 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Straight in there, pop it in the oven, close the door, and forget about it, all right? That's gone in there. I've got my roast potatoes over here, roasting a little bit of dripping. Our beef goes in the oven. There's a cow noise in the studio. Was that Matt the sound man? The beef just goes in the oven as it is. Don't need to put just salt and pepper on it. Hour and 15 minutes. Now I've got my beef resting away nicely. Got my platter, I'll bring this across. The carrots are then cooked. Got my roast potatoes. You're looking a bit confused there.
No, I'm not. I'm just thinking, sickeningly, you make it look so easy.
I couldn't do your job, trust me. I'd like to, but I couldn't do. But look, you got these beautiful carrots over here. They go on there, like that. But they're so simple, and they're lovely and sweet. They taste amazing, and you get this amazing sauce from it as well. So this buttery sort of, you don't take it too far, otherwise it goes to a caramel. Then you're not making a dessert. You're making just a nice little dish. So we've got our sauce reducing down away here. I've got my roast potatoes. Do you like crispy potatoes or do you like soft potatoes?
Crispy.
Crispy, all right. You can have the crispy ones. That's upset Mount the sound man because he likes crispy potatoes. So he's getting a bit of that. And then you put these on here. So the roast beef needs to just rest as well. We just pop that on there as well, like that. But I'm assuming with doing what you're doing, you film it all year round, don't you, as well?
We do.
That's the benefit of that?
Yeah, we film. Well, obviously, the camera crew that I work with don't want to miss anything. So if they turn the back, you know, as we say, things can come in a twinkling, and so they've got to be ready to go. Oh, look at that! Whoa!
See, Peter, this is not my first rodeo. You see? Look at that.
Look at that!
Is that how you want it?
Oh, yes.
There you go. So you got your roast beef, which is perfectly cooked. The key to this, though, is just making sure that it's allowed time to rest, because it needs time to rest. You get this amazing taste from it as well.
So how long would you give it to rest?
About a good half an hour before you serve it. Okay. Good half an hour. So roast beef going to go on there. But first of all, before you taste it, let's have a look at you in action. Enjoy this one.
Now, Reuben. Peanut,
Good morning, you man.
How are you doing?
I'm feeling very gutted about my cats.
I bet you are, because they're such a big part of your life, aren't they, really?
Life can be snuffed out just like that.
It's very fragile, isn't it?
Yeah, life.
But you've always, over the years, given homes for these cats, haven't you?
Yeah, I'll take a cat any time.
And even though you're a bit down in the dumps now, that's
Yeah.
what you've got to think of. All these cats that you've
All
given a
little things
fantastic
that need a
home
home
for.
somewhere.
They do. Yes, they do, Jane. Moonshine. She's lovely, isn't she? Hasn't she grown nicely? Right. Don't you worry, Mrs. Green.
I'll leave her in your capable hands, you man.
Right, and I'll look after her.
If that is not the best job in the world, you have got the best job in the world. So,
I am very lucky.
well, thank you for sharing with us all. I'm a massive, massive fan. So we're going to take our nice bit of sauce over here. It's a bit of gravy. But then, of course, we cannot have roast beef without Yorkshire pudding. And in the oven, for the last hour and 5 minutes, we have our Yorkshire pudding in the bottom oven, cooking away. Oh. This
Wow.
is a Yorkshire pudding. All right? Now, you know as well as I do, we'd have one of these each.
Now, this is what I've got to... Because normally, in Yorkshire, we would have our Yorkshire pudding first.
Yeah, but, well, it depends where you are in Yorkshire, you see. You'd have to have it first in my nana's house because everything would be overcooked by then. So that's where we'd have to have it first. But this is you get your Yorkshire pudding.
But the idea was, James, wasn't it? Those that ate most Yorkshire pudding got most meat.
Exactly, that's the idea of it. So you have now got roast beef and Yorkshire pudding cooked by me at my house, and it's been an absolute pleasure. But there we have it. Yorkshire pudding with roast beef, carrots, roast potatoes, surrounded by 2 Yorkshire folk. Enjoy that one.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
Bon appetit. Oh. But you got a long way home, so I'll give you this bit as well, should I, as well, to take home with you?
Oh, yes, please.
Jam and cream, don't you?
Well,
or honey?
Treacle.
Treacle.
Or, the other thing we used to put, Yorkshire salad. Cut up lettuce and onion in, yeah, we sometimes...
A Yorkshire salad, lettuce and onion and Yorkshire pudding. I've never heard of that one. But go on then, dive into that, tell me what you think.
Oh.
Happy with that?
Ecstatic.
I think I'm not going to be able to get rid of you, am I?
No.
This is it. Exactly. Peter Wright, everybody. Right. Still to go, I'll be giving Ruth Langsford a crash course in cooking fish. But after the break, we've got a masterclass in a pavlova that you don't want to miss. I'll see you after the break. See you in a minute. Welcome back. Now I'll be laying on lunch for Ruth Langsford very shortly. But first, it's time for this week's little masterclass. And this week's masterclass, we're making one of my favourite desserts. It's a berry pavlova, which is perfect for this time of the year, to be honest. People think of pavlovas at Christmas time, but to me, it's got to be this time of the year, really, right throughout the summer. So we're going to start off by making a meringue. So first thing we do is separate the egg whites. And I find the best way to do this is by hand, as in using your fingers, like that, rather than shell to shell. So separate. I'm using medium eggs for this one. So nice, fresh eggs. Now, a lot of people say, really, with meringue can be better with eggs that, particularly egg whites that are frozen. I don't agree with that. I think they're better off with fresh egg whites, to be honest with you. So make sure they're nice and fresh like this. Separate them in the hands. You see, they're so much more easier. There we go. The most important bit is make sure there's no egg yolk in there. Because egg yolk contains the fat. Fat's greasy, and what we don't want to do is incorporate that into our meringue, because it can collapse our meringue. So keep the egg yolks. We can use those for other things. So once we got to that stage, we've got our nice egg whites, 5 egg whites. Then we can start to mix this. Now, it's how you incorporate the sugar into your meringue, which denotes what type of meringue it is. So for pavlova, really, you can do it 2 ways. What we call a cold meringue, which is you add 250 grams of sugar into the whipped egg whites. That produces a cold meringue. This gets quite confusing when you're doing the different methods of making meringue. But there's a thing called a hot meringue, where you take the same amount of sugar, caster sugar, put it on a tray, pop it in the oven, 150 degrees, something like that, for about 5 minutes until it's hot, and add that in the same way as you do as cold meringue. That becomes a hot meringue. There's another way. There's actually a few more ways. We can take the raw egg whites before I mix them up, add the sugar, mix it over a bain-marie, which is that, just a pan of hot water. Gradually mix it with a spoon or a whisk like that. Once all the sugar's dissolved, you put it on the machine again, start to whip it up with all the sugar in it, but it's all dissolved. That's called a Swiss meringue. So for this one, really, to make a classic pavlova, we've got 5 egg whites, 250 grams of sugar, like I said. And what we're going to do is make sure they're firm peaked. Now, the most important bit of this is the bowl is clean. No bits of grease in there as well, because that can allow the meringue to collapse. So once you get a firm peak like this, I'll just stop the machine so you can see. Once you've got this firm peak, you can actually over-mix this. So keep your eye on it, keep going, and gradually now we add the sugar. Now, old school recipes would be add the sugar third, and fold in the rest by hand. You don't need to, really. You can actually hear the machine drop down a gear. So you gradually, in a thin stream, pop all the sugar in. You can almost hear this machine just drop down a gear as it starts to work a little bit harder. So you mix it all together like that. And then if we're creating pavlova, you want it quite sticky. So if you're doing anything like that, or meringue nest, the best way to make it sticky are 2 ingredients. You can either use one or the other, or both. I use both. We've got in here some white wine vinegar, a couple of tablespoons of white wine vinegar. Must be white wine vinegar, not sort of a malt vinegar. Definitely not balsamic vinegar. But we take a little bit of corn flour, about a tablespoon of corn flour, pop that in there as well. Slowly mix it at first, otherwise it's just going to go everywhere. Then fire it up. And that is your simple meringue. Now, you can use this for a variety of different things, like I said. Pavlova, meringue nests, shells, that kind of stuff. Anything where you want the contents of it quite sticky, because you've got that corn flour and everything else in there. So you can take your meringue now. No need for a piping bag. Like that. And we can take your meringue and just roughly spread it. You don't need to be exact with this. The thing about a pavlova is really the rough shape, like that. So what you want to do is create a little imprint where you're going to put the filling and the cream and everything else in there. It's almost easy as that. You can pipe it if you want. I actually like it really like this, just nice and simple meringue. If you've got anything left over, you can create little shapes. I'll show you those later. But either way, what you want to do with this now is you want to pop it in the oven and bake it about 120 degrees. Now, it needs at least 3 hours, preferably overnight. So if it's going to be overnight, drop the temperature down to about 100 degrees, something like that, and give it overnight. Either way, it'll become dry on the outside, but sticky in the middle. So this can go straight in the oven there, like that. Now, I'll lose my machine out of the way so you can see. I'll just move that over here. Meanwhile, over here, we can then get on and do our filling. Now, this is what our meringue looks like when it comes out. It'll have a nice little colour on it. There is a thing called a dehumidifier out there. Some people have actually got these. You've seen them on the show as well before, which you can dry meringue out in a dehumidifier and it creates it much whiter. You see that, the difference in colour. One that's been in the oven, one that's been in the dehumidifier. Either way, it's meringue, so this is nice and sticky. Now, before we put the cream in there, what I want to do is create a little barrier. Because the problem is, if you put the cream in here and leave it, it basically just makes the cream and the meringue really, really sticky. So what we want to do with this, we want to take a little bit of chocolate. Now, I like melted white chocolate for this. You can use dark chocolate, but melted white chocolate I find is better because it tastes better, I think, with things like strawberries and raspberries that we're going to use now. So particularly fruit this time of year. So take your little bit of chocolate, white chocolate, put that on there. So you can be quite generous with it. Take your pastry brush and just very, very quickly we'll go over and around the bottom of it. Now this is going to create a nice little barrier in here to stop that cream from making our meringue go soggy. And also you get a really nice taste and a little bit of texture as this starts to firm up, which is there. So once we get to that stage, we'll leave that to one side. Meanwhile, we can concentrate on the filling of this. Now, the filling of it, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do a nice little caramel with it, but almost like a raspberry ripple with it as well. So I can lose that out of the way. The caramel comes in the form of a touch of sugar. So all we do with this is just take some normal sugar. That's going to go on there. Normal caster sugar. Like that. Just a little bit in there. And then I can take some of our raspberries and blend them in a little blender over here. So just some fresh raspberries, like that. They can go in there as well. So the thing is with pavlova, you don't want to be skimpy on it. Put plenty of fruit in it, really. Whatever fruit you decide to use, but blend it up. Blend that up into a little puree that's got in there. But you don't have to pass it as well. You can just leave it as it is. So that's your nice little bit of raspberry. Next, turn our attention to our cream, which you've got in here. So you almost want this softly whipped, really, for this. So take the cream. We can add a little bit more double cream. And then what I like to do is flavour it. You can flavour it with whatever you want, really, in terms of vanilla. But I use this. This is vanilla bean paste. And it's almost like a vanilla bean that's in a sugar syrup. And I think you get much better value for money, this. And a little bit, you can also keep it a lot better than standard vanilla, as in the pods. It's a great one to use at home. It's much better than using sort of vanilla essence as well, which is more of a chemical sort of taste rather than a natural sort of taste. So look out for vanilla bean paste. I'm just going to whisk this up now, all the while keep an eye on our sugar. So once we've got the cream, which is sort of semi-whipped. You can take your puree and sort of ripple it through. Like that. So you don't want it firmly whipped. I think that's fine. Keep your eye on the sugar where you're at it. You want a nice sort of even caramel to this. And then I can take our pavlova and fill it. Look. So you're creating this raspberry ripple effect in there. And then this is where we can fill it all up. Now, what's great about pavlova, it's been around, I reckon about 1920s it was invented for Anna Pavlova, this famous ballerina. She was a world-famous ballerina. And it was invented for her, really. But meringue's been around 1700s. It's amazing, this sort of stuff. But it's amazing how many different ways you can make it nowadays. But you take some beautiful fruit, which of course this is the season really, coming into summer. You've got amazing strawberries, you've got amazing raspberries. We're visiting all over and have been on this show as well. All these amazing suppliers. If you're ever in Scotland, get yourself some raspberry plants as well, because our great believers, Scottish raspberries are the best in the world. They really are. But we're just going to take our strawberries and fill them up. All the while, keep an eye on your little caramel. But once we get to that stage, we can get our raspberries and pop them on as well. Really load it up. There you go. This is a dessert where there isn't really less is more. It's just, you've got to pile it on. So we're nearly there with the caramel. Once you're happy with this, you can do is just allow this to cool slightly, which is really, really hot, so don't go sticking your finger in anywhere near this. It's worse than boiling jam. It's horrendous stuff. But just be really careful when you're using this. Just allow it to cool down a little bit. And what I've got in here is I've got some beautiful little bits of meringue. That you use whatever leftover meringue you've got in a bowl. I've just cooked these. These would create nice little shapes and little textures. And again, rather than just serving it like this, you can add those textures to it on afterwards. But you take your caramel and you can just put that on there. But you can see as it hits there, it starts to bubble up. You get this amazing texture from it as well as it drips down. Now, you do need to leave this to cool. Don't go eating this straight away, but this with this little bit of caramel on just adds a nice little texture to the meringue as well, rather than being soft, soft and soft. More. The best way to get that caramel out, put water in it, bring it to the boil, and then just leave it bubbling away before you tip it away. Don't go tipping that down the sink, otherwise you're going to need a plumber and a builder to dig through the bottom of your house. But you take these lovely little bits of meringue and you can put those on there. Just adds a nice little texture to it, like that. Any old way over the top. And then finally, I'm just going to take a little bit of fresh mint. You can do things like chocolates. I've got a little bit of chocolate shards over here that you can buy. But we just take some nice bits of fresh mint and stick these on the top as well. But either way, you can see whatever fruit you use, it just looks like summer to me. And everybody thinks of pavlova. I don't know why pavlova at Christmas, but I just think, to me, this is the time of year, right now, where you want to be doing desserts like this. It shows off the very, very best of all the amazing fruit that we have dotted around the entire country, really. But there you have it. My version of a famous pavlova. Job done. Now, if there's anything you'd like to learn about in a little masterclass, then do get in touch. We'll see if we can help out right here on the show. Now, we've got to take a quick break now, but join me again in a couple of minutes when I'll be back in the kitchen with my fabulous guest, Ruth Langsford. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. I'm here in the kitchen with my brilliant guest. It's the one and only Ruth Langsford. Now, we cooked a little ragu earlier. Ching ching.
Ching,
Cheers.
ching.
We're still resting on a drink. There, I'm not on champagne.
What are you on?
I'm on wine. I've left the champagne for you.
Thanks very much.
Exactly.
Good choice.
So, exactly. So we're going to do one fish dish. We're going to do 2 fish dishes on the show for you, but I thought we'd do one. Now, you're interested in cooking techniques on fish?
Yeah, because I love fish. When I go to restaurants, I always try and have fish because I just don't cook it at home. I kind of look at that and I go, don't really know what to do with that. If you had a piece of lamb or a piece of pork or beef mince, I'd know something.
Right.
But with fish, I just get a bit, I don't know what to do with it.
Well, I think foolproof sauces are easy because this works with anything. So I'm going to do a little village. Simon Hulson's been on the show. He was talking about this amazing village that he does with scallops. You can do this with scallops. You can do it with any fish. You can actually do it with chicken. It's a warm French vinaigrette.
What does village mean?
Village is a combination of lemon, a citrus, lemon and oil. Okay. So it's a warm dressing, but it's the addition of a few ingredients that makes it village. So running through the stuff I'll get here, we're going to bake one of them. I'm going to steam one for my next dish after this. Then I'm going to pan fry one. And we're going to do it different ways. So I thought with this one, we'd bake one and pan fry it. So 2 different cooking techniques that you can take home. This is a beautiful monkfish.
It's big, isn't it?
Well, this is small for a monkfish tail.
Is it?
So they've got to be much, much bigger. There's about 60% waste on a monkfish. It's quite expensive. This used to be, back in the 80s, late 70s, this used to be the weapon of choice for scampi, when langoustines became so expensive.
And I love scampi.
They would supplement it with monkfish.
Do you remember scampi and chips in a basket?
I do remember.
Yeah.
And the days of a Bernie Inn. I remember those very, very well.
Oh, yeah, we had to, didn't we,
It was
James?
the only fancy meal that we were allowed. Once every 3 months, we used to go out and have fancy mustard. That's the only place you could get French mustard back then. But what we've got in here is there's a little membrane that is in monkfish. And a lot of the time, this can be removed by your fishmonger. But you can see the beautiful texture of monkfish. Now, you can roast this whole like a joint of meat. And because of that, it can lend itself really well together with classic sauces. So even sauces like coq au vin, which you think of with chicken, bordelais sauce that you think with beef.
Do you just use your fingers to do that?
Yeah.
Look at you, you brute.
Yeah.
What's wrong with a knife?
What's wrong with a knife?
It's a nice butter knife.
We just not in this house. This is a butter knife in this house. This is a butter knife. Then what we do to cook our piece of fish. So because the flesh is beautiful and white, and the best one I've had at all is from Wright in Scotland, near Inverness. That's the best monkfish. It's just pearly white. It's amazing. So you put black pepper on the tray. Then we put some salt.
Oh, on the tray, not on the fish?
Yeah, you put it. You season the tray. So when you put the fish on the tray like that, you keep in the nice colour of the fish, but it's seasoned underneath. And when you're cooking fish like this, it's going to take no more than about sort of 4 or 5 minutes in the oven.
That quick?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's all it is, 4 or 5 minutes.
You're saying about cooking around the world, and it's probably a difficult question, but have you got, like, the place that you...
You're interviewing me now. I should be interviewing you.
Force a habit. Force a habit. No, but when you said that, cooking, we've been in Scotland cooking monkfish.
My favourite place is this country. It always has been, always will be. I've been privileged to go all around the world. We've been to France, we've been to Italy, I've been to Spain,
The States.
I've never been to Australia, I've been to the States, been to Asia. I still think this country's amazing because I'm a farmer's kid, so I've got to use my voice now to support all the amazing producers we have in this country, and we're surrounded by the most beautiful fish in the world, you know. So we got a beautiful bit of line caught bass over here, which we're going to pan fry, and I'm just going to pan fry this in a nice hot pan. Now, we talked about your career earlier. We managed to work together at different sort of things. I've got to speak to you about this morning because it's one of the most fascinating shows, and to be doing it now and to be cooking on the show as well, you get to experience what the presenters are like, and that to me was it's a harsh lesson, but a true lesson in what you guys do for a living, because I've never witnessed it. I got to present this with you about 5 years ago. It's the scariest thing I've ever done in my entire life. But you get to experience stuff that you never... You know, you see proper pros at work, and I think you and your...
Well, I think you're being too harsh on yourself, because I think the only thing you found difficult was the autocue.
Well, it's because I'm a dyslexic. That's the thing. I don't really read autocue that much, but the way you feel comfortable doing what you're doing, and that's years of doing what you're doing, but also it must be great to be able to do that with Eamon.
Oh, it was fantastic doing it with Eamon. You know, you have each other's backs, and we're husband and wife, so I know, you know, we've had our... little, I call them heated discussions. Yeah. I say we're not arguing, I'm just not agreeing with him, that's all it is. But, you know, and I like to think you felt I had your back when I was working with you. I wouldn't have let you...
certainly did.
Wouldn't have let you get yourself into a situation, because that's my job. Like, if I was doing something cooking and I was getting myself into a mess, I'd like to think you would help rescue me.
I'll give you a hand, yes, exactly. Yeah. Look, we just got... So this is a little lesson of how to cook a piece of fish, because you're on about that. Sometimes you go to a restaurant, it's not cooked enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's overcooked as well. So the thing about this is have a non-stick pan, and the trick is to leave it and have the confidence to leave it. Now, once it's halfway up the side of the fish, then we add the butter to it. And this is a classic way to do it. So you just finish this off with this nut brown butter. Now, you do this over the pan like that. As you start to colour like this, we can then turn it over. You can see you've got that beautiful crispy skin.
Because you seem to have that up quite high, because I'd be worried about burning it.
Yeah, the pan is as hot as it will go, to be honest.
Is it?
With the Ruth, yeah. So you want to get it really, really nice and hot. Now, as you're doing this, once you do it at that stage, this is when you can almost take it off the heat now, because then you just take a little bit of lemon, like that. The fish you just leave in the oven, but you squeeze a little bit of lemon over, and then this is where we finish it with foaming butter. You'll see a lot of chefs do this. You ever watch any sort of cooking shows of restaurants and everything else?
I thought they were just showing off. I didn't actually think it was part of the cooking.
This bit's the key to it. It's the foaming butter over the top. This is where you get this beautiful shine on it, but this is where you get this gorgeous taste from it as well. And by leaving it in the pan, leaving it to one side, that'll continue to cook. You see a lot of chefs often take it out and put it into a tray and leave it. But that's cooked now. So it was half cooked.
You're talking about pressure. In a kitchen, I love cooking, but I would not do one of these cooking things.
You did you do?
I did Marco Pierre White's one years ago. It was at Kitchen Nightmares. It was a flipping nightmare. It nearly put me off cooking.
What did you find that about a nightmare?
Because I'm a relaxed cook, right? So cooking is like a hobby to me. I'm in the kitchen, I crank the music up, no one's there.
Yeah.
I'm chopping and cooking, and there's no pressure. So it's just not my thing. And when I love watching cookery shows, I love watching documentaries about.
There's a lot said about. I think the thing about it is there's a lot said about restaurants and pressure and that kind of stuff. It's different to what it was back. So everybody says that when they get older, don't they? But it's different to when I was a young kid. It is different, and rightly so. It should be different, really. But I just find it a relaxing place to work, and to be able to do this and to cook, you know, and show people at home, show you how to make this dressing. I love this because I'm hoping people can go away and do this. But we all go away. Well, this is a nice little dressing. So this is a Vierge dressing. Now, interestingly enough, this is French. So this is olive oil. You need really, really good quality olive oil. Now, the best olive oil I find, this again upset Gino, but the best olive oil I find is not in Italy. It's Greece and Crete.
Gino.
No, I know it's Greece and Crete, and when you go to Crete, they consume more olive oil than any other person per capita in the world. But you just take really, really good quality olive oil like that, lemon. So this is where you get this warm dressing from. So it's lemon and olive oil like that. Now you can just leave this as it is if you want, but
Did
then
you heat that olive oil?
So no, it's just in the pan. It's not hot yet. Then we take some tomatoes. So the reason why I've de-skinned and de-seeded these tomatoes is that I don't want the sauce to bleed. So if you put the whole dot in, you can do. See a lot of brasseries do that and put the whole thing in, it'll go pink. A little bit of coriander seed. I know you've got a great lover of coriander.
I don't love coriander. You've nearly put me off now. Will it taste coriander-y?
No, it's just a little... No, it's not coriander-y. It'll just...
No. Is that a word?
Sam upstairs laughing on autocue.
No, is that not a word, coriander-y?
You just take a little bit of coriander seeds. It's almost like an Indian sort of spices coriander seed rather than sort of the herb. Then a little bit of garlic. So this is where
I need to learn to chop like that. Look at the size of that knife.
Do you know what it is? Sharp knife.
Yeah.
And it says crazy, but that's the reason why you cry when you're chopping an onion or anything else. You're nice, not sharp, or you're too short. Stand on a stool. Stand on a stool. I can say that in 6 months, can't I? But anyway.
Too short.
Too short. Stand on a stool. Right. Then we've got this is where you get the selection of herbs. So you can put whatever herbs you want, but what we class as soft herbs. So soft herbs are soft to the touch. You wouldn't use things like thyme and rosemary in this. It's usually got tarragon in.
Yeah, I love tarragon.
Basil and chives. So what we do now is we just warm this up. And what you don't want to be doing is boiling this. So you just warm it up like that.
You're very tidy when you cook.
Well, it's my house. I've got to be. Nobody else is going to clear it.
But I suppose in a kitchen you have to be fairly tidy.
Got to be, yeah. Well, the kitchens always used to be massive. Now they're quite small things because kitchen equipment's quite expensive. So we just warm it up like that. And then all you do is you take your dressing and that's it.
Oh, that looks delicious.
So it's just, you get this amazing flavour from it with the olive oil. This just works so well with fish or chicken and that kind of stuff. We've got another piece over here we can do. Like that.
Looks lovely as well.
It's just, the simplicity of it is the key. I think that's the key to this. It's classic little sauce variation. Each chef has their own little variation on it, but it's a little variation. And then we take our, look, this is now ready. It's cooked. We can then simply take our monkfish out. Because we seasoned it underneath.
You don't season it again?
You don't need to season it again. It's already been seasoned. We've got our lovely bit of pan-fried
look at
sea bass that comes out like that. And that can sit with it, like that. And then it's just beautiful. And with monkfish, you've got this beautiful colour. So you can pan-fry it and stuff like that. But I just think oven-baked is so good with this one. I'm going to show you how to steam the next piece of fish as well. But there we have it. My version of a simple classic fish with sauce village. Done. Bon appetit. There you have it.
That looks so beautiful.
It is so simple. Have a taste of that.
Do you want to taste a bit of that sauce first? Because that looks so fresh. Oh, yeah. Right, monkfish, here I go.
It's not coriander-y.
It's not coriander-y. It's delicious.
It's like a go-to sauce. This is so simple with tomatoes.
Lovely.
Happy with it?
I promise you I'm going to cook more fish.
Good, promise me. There you go. That's fantastic.
promise you.
We've got one more dish coming up. Right, we've got to take a quick break now, but join me again in a couple of minutes for sole and scallops with a beurre blanc sauce. I'll see you in a bit. It's lovely, that. Welcome back. Now, I'm still in the kitchen with my guest, the brilliant Ruth Langsford. And for my final dish, I thought I'd show you another technique, really. This is steamed sole, steaming fish as well, which is amazing. So we've got some beautiful Dover sole there. I'm just going to steam it and make these little paupiètes. So the way you make little paupiètes, and the reason why I'm going to do this dish is a dish that I used to make when I was in France. My first ever working experience of a Michelin star restaurant was at a 2-star Michelin restaurant. It was called the Hôtel de Plaisance, and it was in Saint-Emilion, and I worked there when I was 10.
10?
In the 10 years old.
10? Why were
yes.
you not at school?
It was called summer break.
Oh, right. Okay.
Summer break.
But was that because you knew you wanted to be a chef?
I always wanted to be a chef.
10?
All my life.
Wow.
So this was, and I used to dodge the chefs throwing pans at me in bits and pieces, but this was one of the dishes that I learned. And this was with a beurre blanc sauce. And this was the only dish that I was allowed to make.
Give me an idea of how tall you were. Like, crouch down. About there. Oh,
this big, really. You know, it's just like that. I used to get sort of beurre blanc stuffed in my face and everything else. And you knew it was right when you'd be covered in beurre blanc. But they used to do this with hake and just crushed potatoes. We've got amazing Jersey roll potatoes now. We've got beautiful English asparagus. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little paupiette and roll this up. There's always a fat end and a thin end to the fillet. You start off with the thin end and you roll it up, and you get these beautiful paupiettes, these nice little.
Does that just mean roll?
It's just a roll. Yeah, it's just a roll.
Did you speak any French when you were 10?
Petit peu. Yeah, I used to speak a lot of French that you can't pronounce on television. That kind of speak. I've learned
You can pronounce it, you just can't say it.
Well, I learned very, very quickly that kind of French that you don't really want to hear. But
kitchen French.
Yeah, exactly. I learned to duck quite a lot, but out of the way. But you see, you've got a beautiful piece of fish. We're just going to steam this. Very, very simple. And steaming's a great way to cook sole like that, but it's a great way to cook any fish as well, because this is delicious. Not because it's healthy. The fact that I'm going to make a butter sauce out of it is another thing. But then we've got a nice little bit of Jersey roll potatoes, bit of asparagus, which I'm going to steam as well. But back onto you. So we've talked about this morning, we've talked about everything else you've done throughout your career. But right now, what you're up to now, you've got to recap on this amazing thing you're up to as well, because this project you know, I've known you for many, many years. This has got you really excited and petrified at the same time.
I'm excited and petrified at the same time.
This project. Tell us about this project.
Because, like, you're obviously doing your tour and you're used to audiences. Don't forget, when I'm on TV, I'm broadcasting to lots and lots of people, but I don't see them.
That's the weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You do this sort of stuff here, and there's 4 people. That's it.
Yeah.
And you go out in the wider world. And you go, well, I watched you watch this, but this is where you get.
Suddenly, you know, I love the idea of it, and we've always been saying, oh, wouldn't it be lovely if, you know, you could come to the studio, we could all get together sometime. And then suddenly somebody said, well, why don't we do that? Why don't we go on the road? Why don't we go out and do it? And then you go, oh, seriously? Okay. So that's what we do. So I'm very excited. So it's the 23rd and 24th of July, so it's a weekend. And, you know, I'm basically trying to plan a day out that I would go to with my girlfriends. So I know exactly what I want. You know, I want a good coffee when I arrive. I want a champagne bar. I want a gin bar. I want a bit of retail therapy. I want to sit and watch a show.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, I hope it will be a really nice day out for people.
People are going to love it. People are
I
going
hope so.
Well, when you go to the second one, you decided cooking, I'll come and give you a hand.
Could you? Oh, you heard it here.
I'll come and give you a hand.
You heard it here. Witnesses, all 4 of them.
Exactly. We do facials with a beurre blanc. There you go. There you go. So, yeah, this is a little beurre blanc facial. There we go. So we've got our beautiful bit, but look, you've got a beautiful bit of fish. Look, it's cooked.
So how long? I mean, we've been talking, but
4 minutes,
3 or 4
something
minutes,
like that.
yeah.
You've got your asparagus cooked. Look, it's cooked. And then to make our simple beurre blanc, this is the key to it. So this is whenever I make this, I always brings back memories when I was a young kid. So you start off with.
I just can't believe that you were in a kitchen at 10.
Yeah, well, I was
a Michelin kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. But I used to work for Brian Turner before then. I was 9 years old when I first did the
Well, he's 105, isn't he?
Well, exactly, yeah. He's a class
Sorry,
of my
Brian,
dad. Yeah.
love you, Brian.
So I remember working for Brian at a place called the Mallion Spat in Gothland. Anybody that remembers Heartbeat?
Yeah.
Remember, that was always based in Gothland, and there's a hotel that was based up in Gothland called the Mallion Spout. And I remember working there at 9 years old. They did a gourmet evening with Brian Turner and Keith Floyd.
Oh, lovely Keith.
So it taught me several different things. It taught me that how I liked a nice little glass of white wine.
And dropping things on the floor.
Yeah, and it taught me that Brian Turner didn't spend much time in his kitchen. He was sat at the bar most of the time. So I love him. So this is a classic little beurre blanc. It's one of these sauces that you could easily make at home. So it's a gastric, which is usually white wine, shallots, garlic, that kind of stuff.
It's not one of those that splits and goes to
No, but the addition of cream is the key to this.
Okay.
It helps it stabilise. In France, really, they don't have the cream as what we do. They have this thing called mountain cream. They don't have double cream in France. They have this thing called mountain cream. So it's almost, their cream is like our whipping cream. Oh, yeah. So it can split and separate. Now, one thing you don't want to be doing with this is boiling it. If you boil it, it splits and separates. If you mix this together, can you imagine?
That makes me nervous then. Because I'm just like, oh, is this going to suddenly come to the boil?
Look, this is now. Can you imagine being this high doing this? I could just see the top of the pan. There was a chef screaming at me over the far end of the kitchen like that. And I'm whisking it, and everybody else is quicker than I am. But, you know,
That's why you're used to pressure, you see.
Well, I'm just 10 years old and just going, yeah. I think the hat was bigger than what I was, but you mix this.
Did you have the chef's hat?
Yeah, I used to wear all the French chefs, in the Michelin star restaurants. It was always the big tall chef's hat.
So why do you think you wanted to be a chef? Like, where did that come from?
This is what I love about this. Is this interviewing me now?
Sorry,
you can tell it just morphs and changes.
No, but you know, I said earlier, I'm genuinely interested.
Honestly, and this is one thing that I wanted to do this show for so long because of you and because of Peter coming as well. Because I've got two of my favourite people here. I think you're amazing. What you do is incredible. I've got so much respect for you. But also, Peter, being a vet, I always wanted to be a vet. And I would give up this job right now. Well, no, I'd finish this dish off for you. I'd finish this dish off here, and I'd finish the link at the end of the show. But yeah, they all want to work here. But I would turn this into a veterinary practice.
So why didn't you do?
Because I wasn't clever enough, and I would give it all up tomorrow to be a vet. And if you could do some sort of, not shortcut, but some way of doing it without you having to go through all these exams and everything else.
Veterinary for idiots.
Yeah, but I guess that you work through experience, you know?
Yeah.
I remember my uncle becoming a surgeon, and he never passed a sort of a major exam, in his life. He worked there because he was stood next to the people doing the things for years and years and years and years and years and years. And after 40 years, he became a surgeon, I suppose.
So if you always wanted to be a vet, then when did you go, well, I'm not clever enough to be a vet, so I'll be a chef instead?
About 9 years old. I just knew straight away that I wasn't clever enough.
But did you cook at home with your mum or parents?
Yeah, my parents were brilliant cooks. That's the thing. My grandmother's an amazing cook, my auntie and all that kind of stuff. But none of them classically French trained. But I just got the experience, a bit like anything. Like you got the experience when you were young to be able to get in that position to do that job.
Yeah.
I was sort of similar sort of thing.
So when you used to come home and do la-di-da food, did they all go, oh, look at you, all gone all French?
They did a bit, yeah. I remember bringing a menu back from London, and my granny said there was a menu from when I was working in London. I worked at a place, and it was Simon Hopkinson used to have this restaurant called Bibendum. It's now owned by Claude Bossy. And I remember bringing this menu back, because I worked there for one night, and my granny said, that's all very well, lad. It's all right, that. And she looked at the menu and said, I said, what would you have, Gran? And she said, I'd have maybe the beef, and maybe some chips, but I don't know what that mangy tout is. It was mange too. It's just that's my gran.
Mangy tout.
Mangy tout. I don't want that mangy tout stuff. So look, we got a nice little bit of crushed potatoes, crushed Jersey roll potatoes, a little bit of butter. I'm going to keep this.
A Jersey Royal, can
I'm just going to keep this really, really simple. You've got. I mean, I used to do this with steamed potatoes and bits and pieces on it, but the French potatoes were never as good as the Jersey Royals. So we just got in here this nice little asparagus. This is how we used to serve it, just nice and simple. And then we've got the little bit of sole on the top. I've got my scallops. Now, I've cooked these scallops a little bit further.
Good, because I don't like them.
Because I know you don't like them sort of
a bit
raw in the middle. So I've cooked these on a little bit more for you. But
you've got so good.
You've got the beautiful little bit of scallops to go with it. And then, of course, you've got this amazing little beurre blanc sauce. But there you have it. A beautiful dish that reminds me of my, well, I say childhood, but my childhood.
Right, imagine you're 10.
When I was working, yeah.
Imagine you're 10, you're
I'm not going to say this in French, but there we have scallops, dover sole, Jersey roll potatoes, asparagus, and a classic beurre blanc sauce. Chef. Well, there you have it.
Thank you.
6 weeks I practiced that dish.
I'm imagining you, little 9-year-old James, or 10, in your chef's hat.
Yeah.
Making this sauce for me.
It's nice though, isn't it? I think that dish was maybe 36 francs, something like that, which is now euros, which is about probably 160 euros, something like that, if it was still around. But
delicious.
It's lovely, isn't it? That's it. That's all we've got time for today. A massive thank you to all my guests, Wyndham Week, Simon Holston, Peter Wright, and of course, Ruth Langsford! We'll see you back here same time next Saturday morning. We'll be joined by more great chefs, other brilliant guests. Until then, take care, stay safe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye for now.